There we are, our beautiful faces. We're here,
Hello, we're here.
live
We
for the
did it.
people.
We did it. The haters said we couldn't. I don't know who the haters are, but they did say that we couldn't, but we did it anyway because of
Haters
our
always saying it.
unstoppable power. Haters be like that, you know.
You don't think they'd be, but then they definitely
They
do.
do. They definitely do. So hello, Justin.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello. How? Oh gosh, the Discord is starting us off the live recording with rumors of Del McGee to
Oh yeah,
Georgia
it's in our
Southern.
show notes, my guy.
Oh, is it? Oh
Oh,
my
I did.
God,
Yeah,
I didn't
put it in
know
there.
about
It's in our
this.
subjective narratives, my guy. Oh
I mean, it
boy.
makes too much sense. It makes too much sense.
Hey, do you want to start this with your just absolute like? I don't know if many people who listen to the show know just how much of a good like you're the kind of Southern boy that calls the crick the holler like it's interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're the kind of guy that knows how to fillet a fish in
Mm-hmm.
maybe some amount of time that's impressive. So
It's
do
not
you
that hard.
have could but you do it well with the kind of ease and professional like the dexterity needed. But do you have any opinions or experience with a pig sous?
You mean like Woo Pig Suey?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. You ever talk to pigs? Are
Yeah,
you
I
that kind of
mean,
Southern boy?
we had a pig growing up named Daisy,
I love that very
and
much.
she guarded our chickens. She was a Vietnamese pot-bellied pig. She
Hell yeah,
guarded
she
our
is.
chickens, and the raccoons that were killing our chickens, she got after them. I think the
Did,
best part about a pig is if you slap its belly.
uh-huh.
It's a very satisfying, sort of like it's like slapping a like oak keg of whiskey. It's like a whiskey barrel, you know.
Yeah.
There's like, and then they'll grunt, you know.
There's
Actually,
like three things you gotta
that's
slap
fun.
no matter when you see them in no matter the context. It's like bags of rice at the grocery store, like
Uh huh.
big like Boston butts, and then apparently your pet pig on the belly.
Yeah, your pet pig. Well, also like pigs. Pet pigs are like I know that like pigs are fearsome in the sense that like wild boar will kill you, but they're also like domesticated pigs are like very Buddhist. At least ours were very like very you know, I'm gonna sit under this tree, but I'm not gonna get thin. I'm gonna eat the tree and everything around it and get fat. But also, the the like world will bring me the food that I need, and so will my owners. And I respect that. I respect the sort of like
Uh-huh.
the dude abidesness of pigs. Um, yeah. So welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, a show about uh, Eric
About a pig.
Russell's
I'm
Eric
trying to
Russell's
see.
SCBC question didn't make the cut.
Yeah, which one are you talking about?
We might have moved it to this episode instead, Eric.
I thought I put that in there. Mm, I might not have copied it properly. Oh well. I'm putting it in. Boom.
It's in. It's happening
Tis in.
for you. Anything. So, for you, we'll do it. So we are about to record. So this is where I'm going to do the intro.
Hell yeah.
Welcome to Chapel Bell Curve, a stats-focused podcast about UGA football. I'm Nathan,
And I'm Justin.
and today we are going to talk about the upcoming. We'll call it. I've seen it called the Hot Dog Bowl. I've seen
Hot
it
dog bowl.
called the Pitmaster Competition. I've seen it called the World's Wampinest Football Game by me. We're here to talk about the upcoming. I was going to say nuptials because you say that a lot, but the upcoming
I say it a lot.
matchup between, yeah, upcoming nuptials. It's kind
Yeah,
of
okay.
a common phrase. Anyway,
Oh, you mean the general
between
okay.
your second ranked University of Georgia Bulldogs and their eighth ranked or ninth ranked University of Arkansas Razorbacks. So we will start today as we start every preview. Well, with talking about some subjective narratives. Justin,
Yeah.
do you want to hit me? Do you want to hit me with some subjective narratives, some news,
Oh,
some
yeah.
history? What do we
I'll
got?
say just off the top, like we're in a weird place because the subjective narratives have gotten significantly less negative about Georgia, and I don't know what to do with my hands. They've been very much like I was expecting them to come around as Georgia kind of like tops all of these different rankings and all these different stat sheets, and people are going to be like, "Oh, we'll see what happens." But it really hasn't been like that, oddly enough. I imagine if this game goes in a direction that we don't want it to go in, then it may go back to that. But I've just been very surprised with how affirming the subjective narratives are out there.
Well,
currently.
I think we've been too good to not. It's hard to troll us with anything but 1980 right now. You know what I mean? I think we're playing so far above, past the right of the bell curve that, or left or whatever, depending on your axis. We've been playing so far outside of the edge of what even statistics have predicted that I think it's hard to really talk crap about it.
Yeah, it is very odd. But anyway, speaking of these dogs being so good, Georgia Southern fired their head coach this past weekend. And so there is a lot of speculation and talk of how Del McGee could be headed down to Georgia Southern to pick up the mantle of the head coach. Just because his ties bring him back to Georgia Southern. He was actually their interim in 2015 for a little while. He was also, I believe he was also their running backs coach as well. And he just has it would make sense to bring in the kind of running backs coach that has coached these running backs, these Georgia running backs. He's been around for several years at this point. And yeah, I mean, he's going to be the kind of guy. I would be surprised if they didn't at least try and offer him the job. And so that's something to be concerned about. But what are your thoughts there?
So, yeah, I mean, okay, so first of all, you can't underestimate the job that I think I say we can't, but I think we often do underestimate the job that Del McGee has done. He is a guy who has been a really good recruiter, a really great developer of talent. Georgia has had, as you said, very consistent success at the running back position. I mean, obviously this year, the whole team's identity is not revolve around the run game, but we're still getting a lot of really good production. Mm-hmm. I think, it's not been a secret that he's been looking for a head coaching job, and I think deservedly so. He's also UGA's run game coordinator. He's worked with some of the best recruiters in the business. He knows how the sausage is made. I think
Gross.
If he was offered it, he would take it. I think there are sort of two things. Well, I think they would be smart to offer him, but I don't know that they will. The reason they will be smart is because I actually think that Del McGee could sort of be like Georgia Southern's Jeff Traylor. Georgia Southern is not at the point that UTSA was when they hired Jeff Traylor. They've had some real success, but UTSA hired Traylor, and he was just a guy who knew like every high school coach in the state, and he was able to go in and get really good intelligence on these kids who were not getting recruited by Texas or Texas A&M or Texas Tech, but were really good football players. And he's made, a very quick ascent through the names of the hot coaching searches, nationally, because he was able to work those in-state connections to great effect. And I think, Del McGee is a former coach at Carver Columbus. He's a guy who understands what it's like to be black in Georgia. I don't think you can
just not to be
that.
Underestimated. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think you would be dumb not to try to hire him. Now, there's two reasons you wouldn't. One is, obviously black coaches don't get hired at the same rate as white coaches. Now, that's nothing against Georgia Southern. I have no inside information about their sort of relative biases towards racially or whatever. It's just like, that's a national fact. Two, and I think this is the more relevant thing, is Georgia Southern has kind of been up its own ass about running the triple option ever since Paul Johnson was there, which, that makes sense. They won a couple of then Division II titles. They made sort of a seamless jump up to FBS football. They came in that first year with App, and they just beat ass the whole time. I mean, they were an ass-beaten team, right? Like the old Nick Saban quote, like they run through us like shit through a tin horn, man, right? That is about Georgia Southern, right? Georgia Southern came to the FBS. They took Alabama to the wire, ran for like 350 yards on them, and they beat Florida, right? And so there's a lot of reasons to have attachment to that sort of flex bone, sort of triple option offense. But I think that there's no DNA for that in Del McGee's coaching resume recently, right? If they're smart, they'll give him the keys and they'll get out of his way. And I think he'll do a really good job, and he can work some of the same. I mean, I think Jeff Traylor is the blueprint here, right? And so I think that Del McGee can do that. I think Del McGee is actually more proven right now than Traylor is as a recruiter. That dude can recruit the hell out of Georgia. If you look at who he's the area recruiter on this current roster, I mean, it's like it's really really impressive. Hold as I vamp for time.
Trying to find something.
Well, no, I'm going to just pull up who Del McGee is recruiting right now.
Oh, okay. 24/7.
All right, yeah. So Del McGee, right now, he was the lead recruiter per 24/7 on two of Georgia's current recruits: Branson Robinson, who is a 4 or 5-star running back, and Jordan James, who is another 4-star running back. His current average on 2 commits is 95.29. He's added 47 points to the class. If you look at some of the people that he's been the area recruiter for, or the head recruiter for, we're talking Justin Fields, Zamir White, Jamari Sawyer, Broderick Jones, Brenton Cox. We're talking DeAndre Swift, Smile Mondon, Dominique Blaylock, Branson Robinson, Andrew Thomas, James Cook, Kendall Milton. These are dudes who, like, Georgia doesn't win any of the games that it's won this year without some of these dudes, right? So I think I think that they would be dumb not to offer him. Now, if you listen to Split Zone Duo, which has a very good podcast that has Stephen Godfrey, whose parents went to Georgia Southern and came up in sort of that Georgia Southern fan community, he will tell you that Georgia Southern's athletic department has been pretty sort of USC style incestuous lately, where they want like a quote unquote Georgia Southern guy. So in that sense, I think Del McGee makes the absolute most sense because he's been on those staffs at Georgia Southern in the past. But it's like they just have to get over being in the triple option because it's just not the advantage that it used to be, right? They have to get a good recruiter up there. So that's what I think. I think he would take it. I think they'd be dumb not to offer him, but God only knows.
Oh yeah. Next piece that's coming in is everyone's a little bit excited, just a tiny bit excited about the return of Darnell Washington and Tiki Smith. And I think that you have plenty to say about these positions and kind of what they'll bring. I mean, I'm mostly curious about just our tight end rotation, I guess, with moving Washington back in there and just our receiver rotation. So what sort of things can we expect with these big returns, these impact players coming back to us, you think?
Well, I mean, I think the sexier of the two is obviously Darnell. He's a guy who we've seen on the field already. He is physically, talent-wise, I mean, just about, there's no hyperbole big enough for what he's done on the field, and just what he looks like out there as a 6'7" guy who can run. I think the most impactful of the two is probably going to be Tiki Smith. Tiki Smith backfills some areas of needs, right? David Daniel has gotten hurt. And is coming back. We've had kind of a thin safety core. We've been playing Dan Jackson as a backup, as a third safety, which I don't think we want to do. I think that at the very least that Tiki Smith slides in as that third safety guy or a safety who needs to come down in the box. I think that Tiki Smith might take some playing time from Latavius Brenny too, as well. I mean, I think he can play the star. He was an All-American, right? And so I don't think you can underestimate the impact of adding an All-American back to a defense that's already the best defense in the nation. Now, whether or not either of these guys will be ready for prime time, who knows? I mean, I tend to think that long-term Tiki Smith is the bigger addition, but that the short-term returns might be more on Darnell Washington just because of his sort of familiarity with the system and the relative ease of fitting in at a skill position. I mean, the thing you can expect from Darnell Washington, and we've touched on sort of the tight end blocking being sort of subpar this year. The thing you can expect from Darnell Washington is that he is an absolute matchup nightmare. He's 6'7". He can catch balls over guys. He doesn't have to jump up to moss people. He just regularly reaches above their heads like they're little babies and catches the ball. And, you know, he can really block. Like if you look at some of his Arkansas tape from his first game last year, he was like one arm blocking dudes into the ground several times. So I think he will be an asset in the run game. I think he'll be an asset in the pass game. I think you can expect to see a metric crap ton of 12 personnel with him and Bowers on the field at the same time. Although it might not even be 12 personnel technically. If I don't know what the distinction is if you have, you know, one of the tight ends in the slot or whatever, but I know if he's in the flex, it's still 12. I think we can expect to see a lot of that. I think that Darnell Washington, I mean, look, if you look at this defense, they are very good. They have some very, very, very good players, but you know, they have some heavy hitters at inside linebacker, but they have some old school inside linebackers and outside linebackers, Hurst and Bumper Pool, who are like threats for a targeting penalty that gets them kicked out of the games at all time, and B, just can be liabilities in coverage. So I think your short-term return is probably Darnell Washington, and long-term, I think, like, you know, does UJ win the national championship this year? You know, Tiki Smith, I think, is going to be a big piece of that.
Yeah. Will you talk a little bit more about 12 personnel and what that looks like and what it actually does to the game?
Yeah, so 12 personnel. So when we use these number systems, the first number, the first digit, whenever we're talking about personnel formations, is always the number of running backs. The second number is the number of tight ends. But with those two numbers, we can, determine the number of wide receivers, right? So 12 personnel would be one running back, two tight ends, two wide receivers. The distinction gets a little fuzzy when you have a second tight end like Brock Bowers, who is functionally a wide receiver, even if he's going to line up at the end of the line tight a lot of the time. But I mean, okay, so here's what that does to the game. Well, if you have a tight end who can catch, which clearly Georgia has two, it really opens up what you can do in the playbook in terms of run versus pass ratio, because 12 personnel is a traditional heavy personnel set where you're going to run the ball out of power because you have extra blockers on the field who have the size to match up with linebackers as opposed to wide receivers. But if you have guys who can catch out of that, then you really put the defense in a position where it has to basically pick, who do they cover. Oftentimes RPOs out of 12 personnel are kind of brutal because with heavy personnel on the field, you can put one of the tight ends into the pattern and one of the tight ends blocking and still force the issue on RPO and just make them basically cover somebody.
Yeah.
I think it makes Georgia's defense even harder to predict. I think, I don't think there's a world in which we just stop throwing the ball to Brock Bowers, because it's like, why would you at this point? But I also think that I think it'll give us a leg up in the run game. I think the run game is going to get better as we settle in on the offensive line. And I think having a run blocking, basically threat as Darnell Washington, Darnell Washington's rep as a blocker is that when he's engaged, he's really good. I can't imagine after 4 weeks off that he's not engaged. I think that, we will run the ball better because he's on the field, either as a very, very good decoy who takes linebacker's full attention, or as just an inline blocker.
I'm very excited about 12 personnel because we talk about it a lot on the show, the idea of you have to make your opponent predictable. And it's incredibly difficult to have a game against a team that is really effective when using RPOs because they have so many targets on the field. You basically kind of go down it's like a flow chart almost with the quarterback at that point of figuring out what he sees defensively and then checks off like which of my many good boys right here are going to be the ones that I throw the ball to or hand the ball off. And it seems like, as we have joked about, we become a pass-first offense. And that may continue going. But I think that we can talk a little bit more about it going into the stats portion of the game, or the stats portion of the episode, because I understand that this Arkansas defense plays what I have learned is called an umbrella defense. And it seems to be particularly effective against what we may be doing, if I understand correctly, just in the sense that it allows for a lot of contain, which is going to be what anybody's trying to do, but it remains incredibly difficult still to contain athletes when you have so many, the depth that Georgia does. And so can you talk a little bit further? Do you have anything to say, I guess, about the umbrella defense in this specific game, in this context?
Well, yeah, in the Texas A&M Arkansas game, they called it umbrella a lot. I mean, basically what you're saying is that they're very committed to a 3-down lineman front. They run 3-down linemen most of the time. They often run them not in what we would call like a money set, or what Georgia would call like mint or tight set, because that's a 4-down front. But they often run their 2 outside linemen outside of the tackle, and then a nose tackle straight up on the center or shaded to the play side, depending on sort of the particular play call. When we say they run an umbrella defense, what they basically mean is they're running cloud zone a lot of the time. I know that I have not done enough sort of like schematic breakdown on Arkansas to tell you if they're running like zone pattern match or zone match or man match. But I think from what I watched that they're running a lot of pure zone and a lot of zone match. So zone match is sort of how can I put this? zone match is almost like rotation in
Mm-hmm.
basketball defense, where basically you have guys in traditional drop zone spots where they go to their spot and then they wait for the guy to come into their zone. But depending on what pattern is run by the offense, you rotate and cover different parts of the field. So, your linebacker might buzz to, or drop to a spot on the strong side of the formation. And if he sees a guy in the flat, he comes down and runs buzz coverage and tries to cover that guy. And if he sees a guy come up the seam, he tries to pick that guy up coming into it. So when we say umbrella, what we're really talking about is 3 down linemen and a lot of guys standing up.
Mm-hmm.
That can look a couple of ways. It can look a bunch of different ways. Sometimes it's too high safety. Sometimes you're playing straight up Tampa 2. I think what Arkansas clearly their plan against Texas A&M was they were going to force Texas A&M to throw it underneath, and then they were going to hit like crazy, right? That's the old, like the EDSBS joke about Arkansas is that they do womping. And like, that's sort of like, that sort of sums it up. Like, they want you to throw the ball left or right. They want you to take those checkdowns. They want you to throw it over the middle, and then they want to hit the shit out of you, right? That is a tendency that I know that Georgia has seen. And it's something that, they basically are taking everybody in front of them. They're putting everything in front of them and trying not to give up a deep play. That is possible to do because, they have Jaden Catalon, who is arguably the best corner defensive back in the country. I think he's there are NFL scouts who think he's a first round pick. They have some really good players. Hayden Hurst is an outside linebacker. Who's Hunter Hurst, or is it Hunter Hurst? I know they got one of the Hurst brothers as an outside linebacker who looks really good. They've got Bumper Poole, who's just like a big. They have some really good players who will run and hit. I'm not sure that they have I'm not sure that they have quite the speed and the ability to cover. They have some really good player that in their linebacking core that we do, but I don't think anybody does. I think that there are some matchup advantages that Georgia can kind of try to exploit in that linebacking core. I think you've got guys like Jalen Williams, who is a defensive lineman who's really good for them. I think their defense is legit, right? Per EPA, they have the number 4 ranked EPA defense in the nation. Number 10 success rate, 34 explosiveness, 14 stuff rate. So they are legit. They played the 33rd hardest schedule to this point this year. And they've proven that they can shut down an offense that doesn't have the ability to take the top off of it, right? And they have Jaden Catalan back there to try to save them when the top does get taken off of it. You want me to go over their offense or just?
I was going to say, yeah, I think it's probably time to hop into some stats. I was going to say that really the last few subjective narrative pieces I could share with you before we get into the real nitty gritty of it all is the Winsipedia of this is that this team, this is a matchup that's only happened actually 15 times in the history of this matchup in the series. Georgia wins 11 times out of the to Arkansas's 4, excuse me. And like the last few games, because our season started kind of quote unquote slow, at least when compared to each of these different dynasties that we've played against these dynastic teams. But what the Winsipedia does not say is just how much Sam Pittman's genuinely turned this program around in the last 2 years. Like, this is his second year as a head coach, and he took over from Chad Morris, who had back-to-back 2-10 seasons. And so it's pretty substantial, the success that he's had already with this Arkansas team. But I would love it if you could walk us through some more of that delicious statsy goodness to kind of explain a little bit further about what Sam Pittman has actually done.
All right. Well, before I get too deep into the paint here, I do want to say that it is. I love Sam Pittman. Like, he's one of the few famous coaches that I've actually met. I found him like a joy to be around. He was just, I don't know, the sweetest, most down to earth guy. I loved him when he was at Georgia. I love him now. So I wish him no ill. I mean, I hope we beat him like 60-0. But
oh yeah, for sure.
Him personally, I have no problem with. Before we get into the stats depth chart, I mean, you got those guys we talked about on defense. I think one of the interesting things about this defensive line, Markel Utze is number 0. I think he's like their nose tackle. He looked really good. He's a redshirt senior. Trey Williams is a redshirt senior. He's a defensive end. And then John Ridgway is 99, is a redshirt senior who is their defensive tackle. Those guys are 255, 290, 320. So this is I guess, moderately beefy offensive line. So it'll be interesting, I think, just from a matchup perspective, seeing how UGA tries to combat that. What do we need to know about this team before we get into the offense? Obviously, the offense, or before we get into the stats, the offense runs through KJ Jefferson. He is sort of like, people call him Baby Cam. He's a redshirt sophomore this year. One of the things you'll see that is sort of a pattern in these Arkansas players is that there's a lot of seniors on this team. He looks really good. I mean, he's a dude who can run. He's big. He can get downhill. He throws a nice deep ball. Not necessarily your prototypical pocket efficiency passer, but he's a guy who's looked really good on the year. Absolutely, just totally lit up Texas A&M in several ways. Braylon Smith is their big running back. He's a redshirt senior. He's not that big, but he's a very good player. Wide receiver wise, like the guy is Traylon Burks. Traylon Burks is a guy that they target. He had like 2/3 of the receiving yards against Texas A&M, and that's because they target him. And this is an offense that looks very, it's a Kendall Briles, who should not have a job, is their offensive coordinator, but he's a very good offensive coordinator. And actually, I think in some ways that this offense looks a little bit more like, not schematically, but just in its aesthetics, this offense looks very much like a vintage, like Gus Malzahn offense, more than it looks like a Briles offense, in the sense that they are definitely running to pass. And once they get going on you, getting downhill, and they're getting efficient chunks of yardage, then they throw it deep to Traylon Burke. It's a plan that works, and when you can run efficiently, it's a plan that's really hard to stop. I think one of the big matchups in this game is UGA to this point in the year has had the best run defense in the nation by pretty much every metric.
Yeah, by far.
And I think one of the big questions in the game is, what I think that this is a very good defense that UGA can find some holes in. This is also an offense that, will light you up if you don't play fundamentally sound, gap sound, run contain defense, right? And UGA historically has had problems with running quarterbacks. I don't know that's necessarily going to be a problem this year, but it's something to just think in mind. So in terms of advanced stats, I'm going to go over a few, and then I'm going to introduce a new thing that we made for all of you. So in terms of our traditional advanced metrics, UGA, basically when UGA has the ball, Arkansas pretty much has the ranking advantage in every category. And the same is true when Arkansas has the ball. Arkansas defensively is 4th in EPA, 10th in success rate, 34th in explosiveness rate, 14th in stuff rate, 13th in line yards rank, 17th in rush EPA, 5th in pass EPA, 20th in standard downs, 4th in pass downs. They are the 34th ranked Havoc ranked team. The only real place that rank-wise that UGA has the advantage is in Havoc Rank surrendered, where they've only surrendered like 3 sacks on the year. I think it's the 22nd ranked Havoc ranked offense to this year. UGA has shown a lot of improvement offensively. Some sort of things that stand out to me: 14th pass EPA, 29th overall EPA, 42nd success rate, 49th explosiveness rate. So, a gap defensively, but certainly not a massive gap in the rankings. And those rankings don't tell this whole story in terms of just like how spaced out people are in their ranks. It's just like sort of a big overview. The real sort of thing, I'm not sure that this is a game where UGA gets right on its rush game. I think that we might run the ball in important spots with efficiency, but right now UGA is the 108th ranked rush EPA team, and Arkansas is the 17th ranked rush defense. So obviously, if we take the Clemson game out, which I'm kind of interested to do these stats with UGA and take out the Clemson game. If you take the Clemson game stats out, I think this team looks better offensively, but it's not, I don't think that really takes away anything from Arkansas. Similarly, when Arkansas has the ball, they're the 43rd ranked EPA offense, versus UGA's 29, so a little bit worse. 55th success rate, 67th explosiveness rate, 109th stuff rate rank. That's the one number that really stands out to me in this. They're giving up 21% of their runs go for 0, 1, or 2 yards. That's interesting. 67th line yard rank. Those two ranks are pretty low. They could be because of their run usage. They're just running the ball a lot. 29th rush EPA, 21st pass EPA, 36th standard down, 56th pass down, 46th havoc. We look at UGA, The ranks are, and I'm not going to identify them all. The ranks are on UGA's defense: 113, 28, 7, 111, 31, 19, and 1.
Yeah.
31 is pass down EPA, and that's by far the lowest, and that's still above average. That's in the top quartile. This is the best defense in the nation. I don't think it's particularly close, honestly. Strength of schedule, resume rank, UGA right now is played the 50th hardest schedule. Arkansas has played the 33rd. We were 4th last week, but then Clemson had to lose to North Carolina State, and here we are, those assholes. So
can I ask you, with the pass down rank, the EPA rank, does that have anything to do with this? Honestly, the small sample size for Georgia's defense in pass downs. Like,
yeah, no, I mean,
I think that has to be what it is, right?
Well, I mean, yes and no. Like, on the one hand, UGA just hasn't defended a lot of plays, right, this year, because they've had a lot of 3 and outs. On the other hand, they have put their opponents in a lot of pass down situations. Now, their pass down EPA is lower than normal, but their pass down success rate is very, very good because they don't let you get a first yard coming out into a passing down very often. And you're right, relative to most teams, they haven't faced many pass downs because they've had a lot of 3 and outs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, if we look at our, sort of our traditional way of doing it, where we just look at, advanced metrical rankings and we just kind of get an eyeball for what are the footprints of these two teams. To me, this looks like a hard fought, relatively low scoring battle. Maybe not like 28-20, 40 points total, but I think you could hit the over in this game, but I don't think that the winning team is going to have more than 31 points at most, right? I think that this is a game probably that's going to be in the 20s. I think this is a game where it's like two very good teams with two similar metrical strengths, statistically, but UGA on both sides of the ball, like UGA's offense is better than Arkansas's offense. UGA's defense is better than Arkansas's defense. In many ways, these two teams, while they don't have the same offensive profile, they are very similar in terms of strengths and weaknesses right now, right? Obviously, Arkansas runs a little better, UGA passes better, but in terms of just like we lean on the defense is the strength of the team, and it all builds out from there. These are two teams that are both kind of doing that. They're two teams that will hit the shit out of you. They're two teams that want to hurt you, want to make you quit, right? Like Sam Pittman is friends with Kirby Smart. Like the whole like keep chopping, that shit is in Sam Pittman's locker room too, right? So I think you're going to see two teams where it's like a Spider-Man meme, but it's like the Spider-Man meme, but one of the Spider-Men is just like a little burlier than the other, basically, right now.
Just 7 inches taller than the other.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get to subjective stuff, I want to talk about one more advanced stat, which is that today we are debuting the what we're calling the beta version of our CBC R squared, which is CBC, which stands for Chapel Bell Curve R squared. It is our power ranking, sort of relative EPA ranking system. It uses a bunch of different stats, including SRS, Simple Ranking System, which is an open source stat that's very good. And it basically depends, and what it spits out is it uses a preseason formula and an in-season formula to spit out net points added. So net estimated points added for each team. And it gives you an estimate for how many points above the average team is this team. Okay, so right now in our CBC R squared beta, right now UGA is in the number 1 spot. Our top 10 as of this moment, as of
Buffalo Bulls.
Our top 10, no, damn it, Buffalo. Thank God we fixed Buffalo. Buffalo is now 70th. Thank God. Okay, so we have Georgia at number 1, Alabama at number 2, Michigan number 4, Florida number 5, then Cincinnati, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and Notre Dame round out the top 10. Clemson is still number 11. That's probably a lot of the preseason model. We try not to do too much herding statistically, where we try to get our model to follow everybody else's. So there are going to be some exemptions to get you through the top 20. We have, starting at 11, Wake Forest, hell yeah, Texas A&M, Penn State, Texas, Iowa, LSU, Arkansas State, Boise State, Coastal Carolina. A couple of different things that we do. We only add 1.5 points for home team advantage. We only add, or for home field advantage, we only add, we have like a 70-30 in-season preseason balance right now. It's 70% what you've done, 30% what your in-season priors would be. Our priors model is basically based on a regression of what returning statistics are important. And then we bake that into our in-season model, where we are using SRS and a bunch of other weighted EPA stats. So In our model, Georgia is currently number 1. Arkansas is currently number 18 or 17. Sorry. Yeah, Georgia's 1, Arkansas 17. We have Georgia at 14.2768 net points added average, and we have Arkansas at 7.6303 net points added average. So we have this game is about a 7-point game. Our net point differential is 6.64 plus 6.64 for UGA. Um, you know, I think that A tells you that maybe the line is a little bit of an overreaction here. I don't know that plus or minus 18 Georgia is really a reflection of anything but the fact that Las Vegas is overcorrecting for not having cut up in Georgia. You can think about, if you think about net points added as defense minus offense, there's a world in which like you double this and you add in an extra point or two for, if you double both of the net point ranks and then you add in a point or two for Georgia having more home field advantage, you can kind of see where that 18 came from. I think 18 is still maybe a little big. As for what this means for us, for CBC, what we're going to try to do is expand this out into sort of a every season thing where we're maintaining a database of overall college football power rankings, where we're trying to tune it so that it, hopefully can spit out against the spread picks and then also spit out over under picks. Right now, this is picking Arkansas plus the points with UGA to win by about 7. This is something that we wanted to democratize. We want to keep it as open source as possible. We're going to put our rankings out for everyone. Hopefully, I can get Justin to make us a graphic at some point for this. We want to put our rankings out for everyone. One thing that we're going to offer to our patrons is just a more involved role in, guiding what we use this for, but also in having access to the full stat sheets. I think sort of the inception for this is that in the past 3 or 4 years, we've seen in advanced football metrics a move a little bit more towards a walled garden. And so we want to release as much as we can and still keep it viable. So we want to release our rankings, we want to release our numbers, and then we're going to just save some of the more advanced stuff and the under the hood stuff for our patrons. But still, making it affordable for everybody to have access to it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm just super excited about it. I mean, I know it did really well for you last week. You were number 4 overall on Tally Site, industry expert. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to share it. Not that it's something.
I hit.
Yeah, don't go betting the bank on this. That's not how it works.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're in beta, and I hit 70% last week on my. I hit a few trifectas, and I hit maybe some upsets that most people weren't predicting. But 70% is unsustainably good. If we can get this thing to 50-something%,
anything above 50 is above average.
We'll feel really good about it.
Yeah.
This is a beta, so we are not really publishing this much outside of the Discord right now. We will put up some rankings just to sort of track and keep ourselves honest for here's what it says this week, here's what we got right, here's what we got wrong, and then we will keep refining this. I want to say that this is not something that I've been doing alone. I've had a lot of help from 2 really great users on our Discord, R123more and Ross R, who I will give a tag when we talk about this on Twitter. So if you were a stats head, even if you don't like Georgia, that is even more reason to get involved in this. We would like to make advanced college football metrics a little bit more egalitarian, a little bit more open source, and we hope that we can.
Absolutely. Okay, so you want to talk about a little bit of subjective stuff from this game?
Yeah.
Before you talk about things you want to see?
Yeah, I'm going to have some water because I just talked for like 20 minutes about stuff.
I'll tee up here. I mean, this Arkansas team can play defense now, which it could not have been said about this team 2 years ago, before Sam Pittman.
Yeah, I mean, Barry Odom is their defensive coordinator. He's a really good defensive coach. He was really good at Missouri, and he got fired for reasons. I think the idea that this is a hard-hitting team that plays good defense is borne out in the stats. To this point in the season, against the 33rd ranked, an above-average schedule, they have really lived up to it. Yeah. They run the on offense. They run the ball well, but they're inconsistent. some of their lowest metrics are in success rate, right? Explosiveness rate. They're pretty good at EPA. They have a lower explosiveness rate. They're okay at success rate. This is an offense that like is going to sound like I'm damning them with fake praise. This is an offense that's just kind of like above average at most things,
Hmm.
and that's actually not a backhanded compliment. Like that's
No.
most even good offenses are bad at some stuff, and they're only bad at like one or two things, which is actually really good. And so, if we take their average sort of rank in these, if we took the average of their rank in these, well, let me see what this is. Their average metric rank on the metrics that we keep track of on offense right now um, is this is amazing data. This is amazing radio. Me just working on this stat sheet. I'll figure it out later. Anyway, um, they're above average at most things. They have too many stuff runs to be a super efficient running offense, but they can run the ball with some power. They can run some ball with explosiveness. They can throw for explosiveness. And yeah, they just haven't been as consistent as you would want.
Hmm.
They've hit a bunch of explosive plays, but they've also missed a bunch.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I
think
don't know.
that
I mean,
it's
is there anything else?
mostly. I mean, yeah, you've said it before. Is like this offense runs through KJ Jefferson, and so I think that is kind of the answer to why it's inconsistent. Not because he's inconsistent, but because if you're playing a team that can contain KJ Jefferson, it makes your offense statistically inconsistent. And on top of that, if you this team is a team that wants to run the ball to establish their offense and then throw it afterwards. And so if you're not getting the offense running, then you're not getting the offense passing for Arkansas. Essentially, is kind of what it comes down to and what it looks like, I guess. And
Yeah.
I mean, does that kind of make sense for us? Is that kind of the answer to why their
Yeah. Yeah.
inconsistency
If
explosive?
I think that I think there's a way to make most college football offenses fall apart. And I think the way that you make Arkansas's offense fall apart is that you just force them to throw the ball. Like
Yeah.
you force them to throw the ball efficiently, basically, right? If you take away the run and you make KJ Jefferson, who's a very good quarterback, but if you make him try to be in 40 times throw up a game, you make him try to throw the ball 50 times a game like some air raid quarterback, he's not going to do well.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, I think basically this is one of the very rare times where the narrative coming in is that this is a top 10 matchup, and the stats bear that out. I mean, maybe like top 15 matchup, but still the stats bear that out. The narrative coming in about the nature of these two teams, the way they've looked, the stats bear that out. The narrative coming in about who the important players on the field are, the stats bear that out, right? And so I think this is one of those games that actually might live up to the hype. And I mean that in the sense that like UGA could win this game big, and all of the things that people have been saying about both of these teams are still true, right? I think that this is a really good Arkansas team. I think there's a chance that maybe Arkansas team hits its limit this week,
Yeah.
but I don't
There's a
know that
yeah.
that really changes how good they have been to this point this season, right? And I think that this is a team that can beat Georgia, right? I'm not going to predict them to, not to spoil my prediction, but I think this is a team that can win, and this is a team that you can't afford to have dumb turnovers against, and sort of come out and play like crap at noon, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a weird line. I'm very confused about the line being as
Yeah,
big as it is, but also I don't know, like our offense has just kind of played lights out, and I fear for this Arkansas team following this week, not because I think that Georgia's gonna like blow the pants off them by any means, but Arkansas has a hell of a season ahead of them, and it starts right now. like,
yeah, they
man,
definitely, things do not get easier from here for them.
they
So
get
they have
substantially harder. In fact,
so they have let's see, hold on. They have us, they have Georgia, and then in the weeks after that, they have Georgia October 2nd, October 9th they have Mississippi, so get ready to play defense. October 16th Auburn, October 23rd Arkansas Pine Bluff, whatever. Then November 6th they have Mississippi State, LSU, Alabama, Missouri to finish the season. So there's some wins in there, but there's some pretty heavyweight matchups outside of Georgia, right? I mean,
yeah,
you've got to play a team in Mississippi that's going to run 80 plays, or 80, what am I saying? There's going to run like 115 plays against you in Ole Miss. And then you got to come out and do whatever the hell Auburn's trying to do. Then you got to come out 2 weeks later and do, Miss State, LSU, Alabama. I don't know how good Mississippi State and LSU are. Maybe just like average teams, but that is not the 2 weeks that you don't want to go Death Valley, and you don't want to go Death
Mm,
Valley, Tuscaloosa in back-to-back weeks. You know
no.
what I'm saying? Like, also, this is a oh my gosh, poor Arkansas. So
Yeah.
Arkansas, they have so I just noticed the home road splits. They have away. They have Georgia away, Mississippi away, Auburn away, Arkansas Pine Bluff at home, then Miss State away, LSU, Alabama away, Missouri at home to finish the year. So that
Jeez.
those 6 games, those 6 away games, it's like, well, time to see what you're made of.
Yeah.
Um,
It's gonna be real hard. Real hard.
I mean, honestly, look, they're playing with house money. I think they got the Arkansas Pine win that they can bank, Pine Bluff win that they can bank, and that gives them the 5 wins. They probably beat Missouri. They probably beat Mississippi State. They could send them to 7. Like they can go 2-4 in those 6 away games. They're gonna go to a bowl, which is like holy crap. That's a big deal for this team.
Mm-hmm. They've been to a bowl in many years. Many years.
Yeah, and I think they could beat Auburn. I think they could beat LSU. I think
Mm-hmm.
this could be a 9 or 10 win team. I don't know that they're quite ready to run with Alabama right now, but you know, they got a shot.
Yeah. They're on their way. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
So what are some things you want to see?
I would like to see from Georgia, we're gonna have to complete some deep balls. And sometimes those deep balls are gonna have to be yards after the catch. I think, they're gonna run a lot of zone against us, and so we're gonna have some zone beaters. We're gonna have to have some comebacks. We're gonna have some, I don't know, just like tight end matchup zone stuff across the middle, some underneath stuff. I think yards after the catch is going to be important more than just like throwing the fade or throwing the tight end seam, which I think we can still do if we get the right matchup. But I think really trying to make that zone defense that they run behind those 3 down linemen a little bit less sound will go a long way. We got to counterpunch. I think this is going to be a game where, Traylon Burks is a really good
Yeah.
wide receiver. There's a pretty good chance that he's going to get deep on somebody. And, I think you have to be willing to say, okay, they got 6 points. Now we got to go back out there and answer. Right. I think if this game turns into a horse race, UGA has proven that it can score and score quick on just about anybody at this point in the year,
Uh-huh.
except Clemson for some reason. So, I think you are going to take some punches in this game that you haven't taken since the Clemson game, and you have to be ready to punch back. And then finally, I think you got to get after KJ Jefferson. Look, I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I don't want to play dirty, but like KJ Jefferson, clearly not at 100% right now. He's a running quarterback. You don't want to hurt him. You don't want to take him out of the game. But if he's going to try to run up the middle, he needs to feel it.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
what it is. If he's going to hold the ball for 3 or 4 seconds, he needs to feel it. And because I think if you get KJ Jefferson rattled, the whole Arkansas offensive game plan starts to fall apart a little.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, that's my first thing I want to see is just a healthy and convincing performance from KJ Jefferson, because I don't want there to be any questions going forward as to who this Georgia team is. And I think that KJ Jefferson's going to be going to be a bad dude for as long as he is at Arkansas, and then probably past that, because I can't believe he's a redshirt sophomore, and it kind of upsets me. But I'm excited to see what he does, at full strength. And I don't think that he's coming into this game full strength, but this is an Arkansas team with nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I can imagine that he's going to come in and try to play lights out just like the rest of this Arkansas team. And I think that under that sort of pressure, you get to see a lot from a team, how they handle that sort of pressure. It's kind of a cultural thing for teams as well, their personalities. But I'm excited to see just what he can do. You mentioned Traylon Burks already. I just think that we need to keep him contained. Our run defense has been lights out, but and they're going to have to target Burks, because my last thing I want to see is I want this to be a horse race at the very beginning, like it has been for Georgia in previous games. I think that if they get out ahead, they're going to make KJ Jefferson throw more often than I think he is comfortable. It's not the word, but more often than they may want him to. And I think that is part of the keys to victory, is continue to contain him on the run. We got to get after him. We got to get some sacks in, and then we want to see what he tries to do downfield. But we got to get out ahead enough, I think, to where it doesn't matter what he does downfield.
Yeah. I agree on all accounts. I think, you want to see Arkansas at 100% because I think that UGA can win this game convincingly if Arkansas is 100%, and I don't want to
Hmm.
hear people bitching about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some over-unders now
Yes.
that I have talked myself into hoarseness. Um,
Horse
over-under
race.
48.5 points scored. That is the over-under for the game.
I think it's gonna have to be over, right? Like, well, I don't
Feels
think
like
it's
over to
over.
me. Feels like
I know
over to me.
these are two big defensive juggernauts, and like that's kind of what we're thinking. But everything that I've kind of talked myself into at this point is like, I think that's just what happens now. And further, like it's wild to think to me, just for a moment, that Alabama is favored over Ole Miss just 14 and a half points, and we're favored over a top 8 team 18 and a half points. So that's an aside.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna say over still.
Yeah, I think it's over because I think that I think UGA is going to continue to be UGA. They're going to that the UGA of this year with a really good pass offense, and I think that there's a pretty good chance that um, Traylon Burks is going to probably get a big one, right? KJ
Yeah.
Jefferson is going to hit a big one, so I'm going to say over as well. Hit me one.
So this one's actually from Bro Broma. Uh, it's a double over under 2.5 Darnell receptions and zero point 0.5 Tiki interceptions. A
So
little
two and a
parlay
half
action,
Darnell
baby.
receptions, point 0.5 Tyke interceptions. Is it a parlay if we do it as an over under, or are we doing two separate ones? I'm taking 2.5 over on Darnell, under
Uh
on
huh.
Tyke. Um, not because I don't think Tyke can have a pick. I think he very well could, but I just think it's inconceivable to me that Darnell doesn't get um, three receptions. Like I
Yeah.
just, even with Brock Bowers taking some of his receptions, I think they're going to target him. I think they're going to target him often. And even if they're just like weaning him back into the offense, I think that he's going to get at least 3 looks at it.
Do you think this is a game like what was the scenario in which we fall back to like OG Georgia and just run the ball a bunch this game? What are the chances?
Um, well, I think we're going to try.
Uh huh.
And I think one of the reasons that it could happen is if right now, Arkansas is very good on defense, but one of the things that we might try against them is to try to pop some balls deep.
Hmm.
They are the 34th ranked explosiveness rank defense, right? Their pass EPA is 5th, but 34th in explosiveness, and then 17th in rush EPA. So to me, that says they're not giving up. They're not giving much up on a down to down basis, but they've surrendered some big plays. And I think in a world where you can find, I think that when UGA can find matchups where they have 6 or 7 in the box, they can run effectively.
Hmm.
I don't think UGA can run effectively against 8 in the box because not many teams do, and that's just not the strength of this team anymore. They have a much more athletic offensive line than they have in years past.
Yeah.
So I think one way that we see UGA go back to old UGA is if it's just the matchup tells us that we should, right? I think it's going to be just like counting men in the box, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I only asked that to say that's probably one of the few scenarios I see in which Darnell does not get targeted more than two
Mm-hmm.
and a half times. I'm saying under though, just because coming off an injury, big dude,
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to be covered pretty effectively. And for Tiki Smith, I'm going to say over because I think the opposite is the case. Is that Arkansas will probably be trying to hit his coverage area, and he might come back with something to answer that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know,
I can see that, yeah.
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 What's yours?
All right. Over under 325 yards passing from JT Daniels.
Oh, baby, that's more than
That
half
would
what he
be
has already.
that would be his high on the year.
That would be his
Look
high
at
in
that
the
first
year.
game.
I think I foresee him having somewhere around like 200-ish yards, 225. So I'm gonna say under.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say over. I don't think that this Arkansas defense is overrated.
Hmm.
I think they did just play a team that was playing its backup quarterback, and that's made their stats look better than they maybe are. I
Uh-huh.
think this is probably like not the eighth ranked defense in the nation, but like the 15th or something. Um, I just think I have a feeling JT Daniels is going to have a big day. I think that this is going to be sort of a mini coming out party for him, and he just looks composed right now. He looks like he knows how to run the whole offense. And yeah, sure, he's played Vandy or whatever, but I mean, like, he does not look like he did in the Clemson game right now to me.
No.
He looks like a guy who knows. I mean, who knows what's going on.
He knows what he
who
wants.
is not. Yeah, well, yeah, obviously, but he knows where to he knows where to throw the ball at all times. He knows the right read, and he right now he's executing those reads at an elite level. So
Yeah. Okay. Next one. Over under 3.5 Georgia explosive plays. I asked this just because that's roughly our average for the past few games as far as just purely explosive plays. Like we've got plenty of yards, but it's been through less than explosive plays for the most part. And so where do you
yeah,
think we sit there?
I'm gonna say over.
Uh-huh.
I think that I think this game is going to be. I took the over on points, and I think this game is going to be not, if not a track meet, then maybe a touch more, um, a touch more of scoring than people think,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say over because I think UGA is going to have some explosive plays, as is Vandy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going with over as well, just thinking that I don't think there's any in between for this game. I think it's either a lot of points, like a surprising amount of points, or it's going to be a lower scoring game with like a combined score of maybe around 40. What's your last one?
Over under 2.5 UGA sacks.
Over, baby. It's got to be.
Yeah, they are the 46th ranked Havoc rank surrendered offense. But yeah, you got to believe.
Yeah, I'm all in.
I can't support this. There's no there's no world where I'm like, yeah, no, I absolutely can support this to you on the just on the merits, but I'm just telling you, like, I just I don't know who blocks them, man. I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't know who can block this team for 4 quarters.
No.
Maybe Arkansas, but
We'll see.
I mean, I know this is the 28th ranked offense per SP plus. It is the defensively Arkansas per SP plus. They're 17th right now, but I don't. I mean, I think that there aren't many offensive lines who can block this team, and 3 I know feels like a lot, but 2 feels like a lock to me. And if I have to stretch, I'm going to stretch up with this defense in terms of sacks.
I mean, try 7 against Clemson, so I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
Feels good.
They have a much better offensive line than Clemson does.
Absolutely.
And I actually think if I was like putting money on it, I would take under. But since I'm not, and because this is just all about vibes,
This is a Georgia
I'm
podcast.
going to take the over.
Georgia
this
Vibes
is a Georgia
podcast.
Sometimes you got to ride the vibes. Sometimes you're part of creating an advanced statistical power rank metric, and sometimes it's just all vibes, baby. And right now it's all vibes, baby.
It's all vibes, baby. Hey, come on in. It's all vibes, baby. Hey, I see you wearing
all
red and
vibes
black.
in here.
That's all red and black vibes,
All
baby.
vibes.
Hey,
All
oops,
vibes.
Oops, all vibes.
Oops, all vibes. Yeah, that's how we do it. Like we're like Captain Crunch in the Berry Factory. Like we don't give a shit. 3
I tipped
sacks,
the box,
let's do
poured
it.
in my bowl. It's all
Yeah.
vibes.
Oh no.
Oh, shit. Think about it. Over under 0.5, Arkansas. Have you done... I'm trying to look at the way that Arkansas is spelled, and every time I look at it, it looks wrong. Every single time. I just had like the...
Arkansas.
Yeah, it's Arkansas. And I just had like
Arkansas
the most intense brain fart because of that. Anyway, 0.5 Arkansas fumbles lost. I bring this up because they have fumbled, but they have not lost one. They have fumbled 6 times in the season. Not a single one has been lost. Do you think that this increased pressure on KJ Jefferson that we're both kind of hoping for and partially expecting will be the end of that run?
Shit, I don't know. I mean, there's the vibes pick, but I'm gonna say under just because it can't all be vibes.
It can't all be vibes, baby. That's fair. I'm gonna be subversive, and I'm riding the vibes. Ride these vibes over one fumble lost. I think it's more likely to be an interception, but it's all vibes,
Yeah,
baby.
I can see it.
Back on the vibes. All right, so paint me a picture for this prediction.
Oh boy, I've gone around in circles on this. All right, I'll start with saying I think UGA wins this game.
Yes.
I think, there are people who are talking about, like, is this 2017 Ole Miss? Or, sorry, Miss State, where Miss State comes in highly ranked. Dan Mullen's last team, Mississippi State. I think they've got Nick Fitzgerald on that team. They come out and Jake Fromm and Georgia just dropped 30, and I think it was 30-0, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is an often point of comparison. I don't think this is quite that. I think that this is probably a more complete and talented team than Arkansas or than Mississippi State was, if only because of the just depth of experience on that team, and because frankly, Sam Pittman is a better recruiter now than Dan Mullen was at Arkansas or at Mississippi State. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be 30-0. I think it's going to be a close game. It might even be a close game through 3/4.
Yeah.
And I think this is a game where UGA probably scores like 31 points, 28, 31, something like that. And I think UGA wins but doesn't cover. So I'm going to say UGA 31. CBC PR has this at a 7-point game. So that would be like Arkansas 24. I think that's a little high. So I think I would probably say like UGA 31, Arkansas 20. It's like an 11-point game. I could see Arkansas 23, 24 too. I think we're looking at like a 7 to an 11-point game. I think it's going to look close for a lot of the time. And I think that UGA is going to take control at some point. And then, I know it's shocking to be like, whoa, a team scores 20 against this team. To this point, Arkansas has the best offense that we played on the year. And so, I mean, you're going to start giving up. You're going to give up some points eventually. So I'm going to say 31-20.
I was 34-20. But you know what I say?
Are you just vibing out now?
I'm vibing out, baby. I'm riding the vibes. You got my vibes. Yeah, you gassed me up with all the vibes.
You gotta ride vibes sometimes, man. You gotta get
my belly's so full of vibes right now.
Yeah, you just gotta get your LED lights hooked up, and then you gotta make get one of those big TikTok noises or TikTok sound bites and just go ham on it. All right,
vibes, that's how it works. I do think this is a game where we finally get to test we finally get to remind the world that we got some world-class kickers, and so we'll get a couple field goals. I think they'll stop us when it matters a few times. We'll still get some field goals in. It'll be fine. We'll get up. I think we'll stay up is the thing. I think we're going to get 41-20. We're going to make that spread. I need them to make the spread because that would be fantastic. I love noon games because you get in. It's like day drinking, You get in, you get your things done. Check it off the list. You have the rest of the day after that. You can even take a nap. The sky's the limit. But with a night game, you just go to bed after that. I'm too fucking hyped after that. But noon game, I can ride the vibes all weekend long and through the rest of Saturday. So 41-20, baby. Straight to the moon. All right. Ask CBC. You ready for some questions? You've gone into a deep focus, a deep slumber elsewhere.
No, I'm ready. You got me gassed up on the vibes too.
Gas this baby up. If you would like to hear your questions answered on the show, be sure to get them to us through Twitter, Gmail, even pocket paper has been a thing that has happened to Nathan. If you see Nathan, throw that thing in his pocket.
Several pocket papers.
So first question comes from Andrew Indelicato. Have you ever been to a pig roast and best pork dish? Not a question, just a statement.
Just a statement. Best pork dish. Yes,
100%.
Yes, I have been to a pig roast. My wedding rehearsal dinner was a pig roast, and it was a catered dinner where the main dish was a wild boar that my dad had killed. That the caterer barbecued into pulled pork.
That's incredible. I have been to several pig roasts as well. They are always good.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah,
it's a little bit jarring, but they're delicious.
Yeah. So this favorite pork dish, I mean, I'm honestly like pulled pork from butt. Like, I mean, I don't think it's hard to beat that. I mean, I love some carnitas. I love some pupusas with pork. But it's just hard to beat pulled pork, man. American styled, slow roasted. Not roasted, but slow barbecued, slow kicked, slow and low pulled pork.
I want chorizo in everything. Chorizo and eggs, chorizo and cheese.
Chorizo is very good.
Chorizo and empanadas, tacos, you name it. I will say we started making, surprisingly easy also, we started making schnitzel, which is just like crusty, like
I don't know what that is.
It's like a pan-seared pork chop, essentially, and you kind of throw a little bit of like a breading on the outside. It's great. It's super good. Lightly fried. It's awesome. You should try it. You'd love it.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Speaking of food,
I love pork chops.
just an aside, I told Anna last night that you said that I asked her if she knew that Sam didn't like pizza, and Anna's eyes got huge, like super wide, and she was like, "Last time Sam was over here, we ate pizza."
Yeah, well, that's not like a problem. It's just,
Well, I know it's not a problem.
you know.
It's more of like a just knowing Sam and knowing her personality. And it was like, I think she probably just suffered through it because she's Sam. Suffered through the pizza,
Yeah, she would
which is something I've never said out loud.
never in her single life would she ever, in her entire life, would she ever throw people off like that. Yeah.
Next question, Ian Boatman. Best guesses for college game day celebrity guest picker. They've been going really hard on Taste of the Town lately. Like, it's been a thing, and they've incorporated it much more into the show. And so I wonder if they're going to do any sort of chef. Because we got great chefs. You know?
We do.
It's not the same
worried
show,
that it's
I
going to
know.
be somebody. There are a lot of really cool options.
Who's in town next weekend? That's the real question.
There are a lot of really cool options, but I worry that it's going to just be like a Georgia fan who is a country music singer.
Yeah.
And I like some country music singers. But I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, Goldberg would be like my pick if we gotta do anybody, right?
That'd be awesome.
I love Goldberg. He went to UGA. He played football. And didn't he play football at UGA? Am I going crazy? Yeah, he played UGA, football at UGA. Yeah, Goldberg. I mean, you can always do some. Oh God, who's Good Eats? The guy who does Good Eats.
Alton Brown. Alton Brown is always a good one. Alton Brown is.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to show up though because he is still very, very much on the I'm staying at home COVID train. Like he doesn't leave his
good
home
for
right
him.
now.
Good
Good for him. I just don't think
Yeah.
he's going to leave his house.
Like if I had the money to not leave my house, my ass would be at home.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know who it could be though. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be some country star.
I mean,
It's probably going to
I'm
be
getting
a football player.
I'm getting like I'm getting a strong like Zach Brown feel. Although Matt Stafford's having a really good season this year. That would be pretty.
They
cool.
might call him in.
I doubt he would come out. He wouldn't come out like the day before an NFL game, but that would still be pretty cool.
That would be really cool. Keith Schroeder, how scared should we be of a Wampin? TM.
We're not scared of a wampin. And a
Really scared of
wampin is the term that Every Day Should Be Saturday uses to refer to what Arkansas does to teams where they just play really aggressively. And it's just they're like good old boys, Sam Pittman, which first of all, I'm not making fun of that. That shit's amazing. I'm fully in 100%, love it. But no, like we are the one who womps. Like don't
We are the one.
like that we are the like you're not trapped in this womp. You're not trapped in this like womp pit with us. Like we dug this womp pit. Like you don't get to make fun of Georgia for doing man ball and recruiting 1,000 5-stars for 10 years, and then like act like that some other team is gonna come in here and out like posture us.
Yeah.
You have like you have one guy named Bumper Pool. Jordan Davis on a bad day womps Bumper Pool.
I love
Like,
so
who-
much that his
like,
name is Bumper
look,
Pool also.
Yeah, Bumper Pool's a great name. But like back alley fist fight, you take your first 5, we take our first 5. Who wins? We don't need 5. Jalen Carter. See you later. That's good. He'll take your first 5. It's fine.
Dunzo.
Yeah,
Next question.
I don't know. I'm not. You know what? Hey, if George Pickens, if his knees healed up enough for a back alley ass whipping, put George Pickens out there.
Oh, yeah.
That dude throws hands. You better fill your hands, you womping son of a bitch, thinking you can womp on us. Jesus.
Joel asks, if you could compare key players on this UGA team to daily driver electronics or gadgets, what would they be?
I think that Brock Bowers. I was actually thinking about this one, but I think Brock Bowers is that. It's like he's like a portable battery. He's like that the gadget that you're like, oh, this is kind of a gimmick, and then you start using it and you're like, nope, I'm using this forever. Oh, you know what he is? He is the thing in your car that you use to like the dash mount for your phone on your car, where you get it and you're like, this is some ass seen on TV BS, and then you're like, I cannot live without this. This is my security blanket.
I like your battery though, because that's the sort of thing where it's not a thing you use. It's not actually a thing you use every day, but it's a thing that when you need it, it's there. And you're like, oh yeah, I have that. Like when we were like, who will catch the ball this season? And we were like, oh yeah, that guy. Like he'll catch the ball. Who else do you have?
I would say that JT Daniels is like your leather, your vintage like vegan leather phone case, you know, that has some like weird 70s imprint on it or whatever. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just cool as shit, you know. He's like epic tier cool.
Have you come across your Facebook feed that ad for JT in it's like Roback quarter zips?
Yeah.
I like it, but it's a really bad angle. Like they got the lowest angle they could on a day that he like, just shaved.
Let's get this guy's chin.
Let's get the bottom side. I want to see the bottom side of his chin. Not many people see it because he's upright too often. But here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Steven asks, this might be too late, but how does it feel to just not be nervous about a big game? That's where I'm at now.
I mean, pretty good. I don't know if I would say I'm not nervous about this game. I'm nervous about every game, and I think every game is going to be the death of me. But yeah, I mean, as big games go, I have pretty big confidence. I basically, how does it feel? I don't know what to do with my hands. That's how it feels. I basically feel like this defense travels anywhere, and like, I also especially feel if it's like, do you want to have this game in a back alley where we both have had half a bottle of real moonshine, not that bullshit that's just sugar water from the store? Like, I feel real good about UGA in that spot.
Yeah. Chris D in London, he's got some big ones. Let's see. Let's check it out. Maybe too general a question, but to what extent do teams play badly because they are bad teams? And to what extent do teams play badly because their opponents make them play badly? I'm sure you'll all have answered this earlier in the preview, but if not, what does Georgia have to do to make Arkansas play badly?
We do. We did answer that second part, right? I think we've said
the first one we answered.
KJ Jefferson throw.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's an axiom that like good teams destroy bad teams, and I think so. I think if you watch that game against Vandy, it's like, yes, is Vandy bad? Absolutely, but is Vandy 62-0 bad? No, right? And so I think that really good teams making bad teams play badly is just really a margin of victory thing more than it is like a thing that has to be.
Yeah. He has an addendum here. An extra question for us. Georgia's strength of schedule started off at the very top after one match and is down to 20 or 35, depending on your source. After 4 matches, by the natural ebb and flow of our schedule, what will our strength of schedule look like after the next 4 matches? And more to the point, after a conference championship game. Say we end up 12-1 and on the borderline for CFP. Given that we faced... Go ahead. Yep. You get it. You get the question.
Yeah, I think that it's probably going to be in the 50s for the rest of the time because outside of Arkansas and Florida, I mean, I think once you play Florida, you get back into the top 20, but then you got to play Georgia Tech and Charleston Southern. If we're using the ELS model of like expected losses for an exceptional team, I mean, I don't think that matters. I also just want to point out that I love Christie from London. He's a very interesting guy, and I also really love that he refers to our games as matches, and I'm not making fun of him, and I don't want him to stop. I think it's amazing.
Please do that forever. Ryan asks, can we bring back borderline erotic, please? We haven't actually said that often in this season.
Yeah, we haven't. I don't know. I got so caught up in the whole like fill your hands, you wampin' son of a bitch that
and atomizing was a thing you brought in and said it a bunch.
Atomizing. Borderline erotic is like, that's just such Brett Bielema stuff, and like I love Sam Pittman too much to put that on him. I will say that about things unrelated to football. I will be honest.
Irk Russell, at what point do teams try to stop the UJ pass instead of the run?
Well, I think after last week, yeah, they're going to.
Probably going to need to be.
I think you saw Vandy put 8 in the box at the beginning of the thing and be like, well, we can't stop the run either, so let's try to stop the pass. That didn't work either, but I think that especially this team is sort of built to stop the deep pass. So I think you're going to see it this week.
Are you ready?
Schematically.
For the next segment, it's Yara's Rage Against the Machine. I was really wanting to. I feel like I need to just yell these questions at you. Usually, I read them pretty fast because I feel like that matches their energy a little bit. But I feel like they just need to be like. But I'll do my best. I have a hard time being angry. Great news: have recovered from pharyngitis. Bad news: now have sinus infection, double ear infection. How to get better soon? Take better care of yourself. Damn.
Get some rest. Drink a lot of fluids. I think people vastly underhydrate when they're sick. I would just be mainlining Gatorade and Pedialyte if I were you. There's no secret to it, man. Just like take care of yourself, right? If you don't feel good, most important thing you can do is take care of yourself, and screw the rest of them. Whatever feels good to you when you don't feel well is the thing that you should be doing. And you know what? Everybody else gets a wampus.
Zinc and vitamin C also is very good. I'll add.
Yes,
Zinc's great stuff.
And
Make sure you do take it with food. Went to Nashville game where we promptly kicked Vandy's ass. Summarize your game day experience from home in 3 words.
Cereal, coffee, whiskey.
Can we get a petition to change the game time to 3:30 or something? Because this 12 p.m. kickoff is not it. Seriously, though, what should I look out for at the game this weekend if I am better by then? And what do I say so I sound like I know what I'm talking about in front of other people?
Well, I would just put a Bluetooth in and take out all of the curses and the dumb shit that I say, and then use the stuff that seems smart.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to sound really smart, I think you want to talk about how like KJ Jefferson is a guy who can throw the deep ball but isn't an efficient passer, and if you can force him into efficiency situations, that he looks way worse. And then I also think you want to look at, using the words gap sound, run fits when we talk about run defense. That's going to be really important for UGA's run defense. Like if you just want some keywords to throw in there.
Say EPA a lot.
EPA,
a bunch. Just drop it into every conversation.
EPA is like the word vinyl for hipsters. So, like, we're a different kind of hipster, and EPA is like our vinyl.
I've learned though that I cannot it is an instant non-starter to bring stats into a casual football conversation, because this weekend again, people are like, usually when I'm with friends and somebody knows about Chapel Bell Curve, they're like, oh, Justin has a podcast about football, and somebody's like, oh yeah, tell me about blah blah blah, and I start talking about blah blah blah, and they're like, I didn't really want to know about that at all. I didn't realize that was actually what we're going to go into.
I'm always trying to get the freaks in my life, so I just go for it anyway, and it's like, well, you weren't ready.
No, yeah, they're never ready.
Your mind, well, it's like a lot of them aren't, but like when their mind is ready to be enlightened, you'll be there to enlighten them.
I'll be there.
You know what I mean? Like,
but for now, I'll carry you in the sand. I love how we always somehow get back to the Jesus metaphor.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, man.
What's your college football podcast like? Well, there's a lot of Jesus stuff, strangely enough. It's not Christian, not Jesus-y.
I mean, I feel like I was someone who, like, the language that I use and my artistic style and my sort of even cadence is just incredibly influenced by the sort of like modern Protestant church, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so there's pretty much no escaping that.
Yeah. College game day. I want to be on it. How?
Getting derbies. Usually we send a derbies gig. I'm going to tell you, Yara, that we're going to have a lot of game days, and you shouldn't go to the one that you feel sick at. And also, it's not that great. It's very crowded. The derbies gig is fun, but it's very crowded. And I don't know, maybe I'm just like it's cool. It's cool to go. You should go. You should definitely go once. And, and if you can't go with the derbies, it's great. And if you have to go after you get out of Redcoats, that's great too. But like after you go the first time, you're like,
I'm immeasurably bored. What should I do during triple infection time? Tit, in parentheses.
Tit. Oh, triple infection time. That's just like, I had a real moment of like, I don't know what that means. I'm old. And then I just figured out how acronyms worked. Read a book, man. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Yara has like a list of, Yara was like, the Caesars are going to start a science fiction and fantasy book club. What should we read? And I was like, crack knuckles, write 10,000 words. I have a lot of those on Kindle. So Yara, if you want to borrow them, that's fine. I also have a lot of them physically, and I can bring them to practice if you're up to coming to practice. I listen to this podcast. Hey, a good thing to do when you feel sick is nothing. If you feel like you need to sit around all day, that's great. And if you want to play video games because you're bored, there's some really good, really cheap video games that'll run on just about any laptop, right? Pick up Minecraft, man.
Oh, hell yeah. Give me your fave recipe or recipes right now. Right now.
I feel like you should answer this one as well. I make a lot of Cuban food because my family is from Tampa, which is like one of the main Cuban enclaves in the United States. I love Cuban sandwiches. Today I made garbanzo bean, collard green, and sausage soup. Garbanzo bean soup, which is a Cuban dish.
Very,
It's got
very
like
good.
potatoes and
Black bean
sausage, and
sausage.
you can make it. You can make it vegan or vegetarian if you want to. So I love picadillo, which is a braised beef dish, and I love Cuban sandwiches. Deviled crabs, which Tampanian deviled crabs, which are like crab croquettes, kind of. Cuban bread. I don't make Cuban bread myself because it uses a lot of lard and it's a total pain in the ass, but I have before. So yeah, I love cooking Cuban food. And actually, but like I think my favorite day in and day out is definitely breakfast. Like I can mess up a skillet breakfast.
Hell yeah.
Like I just love skillet breakfast.
I actually have a
about you?
secret that I was gonna say enchiladas because we make some dope ass enchiladas, and I'll
You
make them
do
for
make dope enchiladas.
anytime.
Yes.
They are traditional enchiladas. I do not look like somebody that knows how to make traditional enchiladas, but I follow.
But you do. You're way whiter than your average knows where to get good enchilada sauce kind of person. But
Exactly.
you do it somehow.
There's enchiladas, but also I don't think I've ever said this before, and you might not even know this, but I have this. If I were to open a restaurant idea, and I've been talking about this for many years, since I was still in the service industry, and that was like a viable route to success, quote unquote. I have in my mind this breakfast restaurant I call Humpty's, and at Humpty's, we make egg messes. And so an egg mess is just eggs and then whatever else you got in the fridge, because the idea for egg messes came from what's left in the fridge. Let's put it in the skillet. Or I would make what I used to call dump casseroles, which is just anything in the fridge into a casserole dish covered in eggs. It makes like a funny little egg casserole. Egg messes. Dump casseroles. We also put everything in the waffle maker. Like everything. Put it all in there. Cinnamon rolls. Boom. Biscuits. Boom. Waffle maker. Yeah. Humpty's is my jam.
I think that's a really great idea. The only thing I would add is like I think the third or fourth sicko category of breakfast food is runny yolk fried egg on savory dish. Doesn't matter. Rice, soup,
Put an egg in it.
gyoza, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Just fry an egg up that has a runny yolk, and I will put it on any carb. Mashed potatoes, done it. Like, make the breakfast from Twister. I'm into it. Let's go.
How should I decorate my room?
Man, Yara's really hitting us with some real what's the color blue? I don't know. I mean, I was always big on I think enthusiasm is the greatest aphrodisiac. So I would always try to cover my room and welcome to the room. Here's all of the things that are cool that I like. And then it's it's kind of like a filter for the right kind of freaks for you. You know what I mean? So if someone walks into your room and they're like, hey, there's a picture of your cat, drawn as an oil painting of the Empress Josephine at her coronation, Napoleon's wife. Bloop. And if they walk in and they see that and they're like, I can vibe with that, then you are you're in the right place. They're in the right place rather, right? So you want to just it's kind of like dressing for the job you want.
Yeah.
Pretty sure our audio or our video just stopped on Twitch by the BT Dubs.
Uh-oh. We're just smiling.
Yeah. At least we look happy.
Yeah. That's all that matters. Look at us go.
All right, we're back. Yeah.
Jordan Davis Heisman?
What's your room decor? I mean, Charles Woodson was last defensive player to win the Heisman, but I'd vote for him.
But art for decorating your room. Get all the art, all the art that I want as tattoos, I have just got on my wall instead first. Here it is. There's many more arts downstairs.
I'm trying to. Oh man, I'm way too. That's my cat as the Empress Josephine, but also we're making a Snow White reference with all of the. We're making a Grimm fairy tale reference with all the things. This is my friend Peter, who also did the cat with a wolves illustration with the moon cycles for our werewolf game we played. This is an adult pinup of Diva from Overwatch as a pinup girl from the 50s, and then that is hard to see, but that's a Samurai Champloo anime scroll. But I think you practice a similar version of freak flag filter that I do, which is if you get 2/3 of the references and pictures on y'all's walls, it's you can hang. You know what I mean?
And finally, got my roommate's best friend Kaylee into the dogs. What do I tell them about the first?
About the first?
I added an article. What do I tell them first?
Oh, what do I tell them first? Being in love with the dogs is about like just being very Buddhist. Well, no, it's not even Buddhist. It's Taoist. It's about Tao Te Ching. It's the Tao Te Ching. It's about the way and the path, and just understanding again our. Yeah. It's about understanding that the universe has created a path for you, and that you are on it. And if you get too fixated on the end of the path, you will miss the beauty of the path, right? And so you have to be. I think it's like the vinegar thing, the three vinegars, right? The Buddha, the Lao Tzu, and Confucius taste vinegar, and Lao Tzu says it's bitter, and the Buddha says it's sour, and then, or sorry, Confucius says it's bitter, the Buddha says it's sour, and Lao Tzu says it's sweet. You have to taste the sweetness in the vinegar. And also, if you like this podcast, you should be reading more Far Eastern philosophy.
Mm.
That's all
Finally,
I have.
we have some late breaking James Bearfield Troll Corner questions presented by Cheerwine. Is the wine that gives about diabetes.
Oh man, he slipped these in under the wire.
He sure did. Is Darnell and Bowers too powerful, like having 2 Infinity Stones?
Well, clearly not, because Thanos got all 6.
Mm?
No, it is not too powerful. We need 4 more before we
Yes,
can
give us
do
all
what
of
we
them,
need to
please.
do. Break the curse.
Should I roast a
turn
pork?
the curse
Oh,
of 1980 to dust.
please,
Sorry, go
please. My body is ready. Should I roast a pork butt this weekend as a warning to all pigs in America?
Yes. Yes, that is amazing. You stay
needs
out
to
of my
happen.
way, pigs. That's very good.
So this is also good. These have all been numbered. So question 3, and the next question is question 5. There is no question 4. Question 3, is this a stats-focused podcast or a questions-focused podcast?
This is a stats-focused podcast, but this is a podcast that is very Taoist in its aesthetics and choices about organization. Also, you freaks are the weirdos. Don't blame this on us.
I didn't do this. Yeah. I remember...
You did this to us. We didn't do this
yeah.
to you.
There was one time that we were kind of talking about, like, what else should we put in the show? Maybe we should ask the people that are listening. Maybe we should ask them to give us questions. And here we are.
And we thought, seriously though, we thought that we were going to get like one question a week, and it was going to be really sad and depressing that it was like from one of our wives every week.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, hey, hit us with your Ask CBC question. And it's like all of these eyes in the forest pop up, all the like golden monster eyes. And it's like,
And then finally, would you be a better offensive or defensive coordinator, and why?
I mean, look, I think big man syndrome makes you think that I'd be a D coordinator. I think I'd be a badass offensive coordinator. I don't think I'd be a very good defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think I'd be a better offensive coordinator than defensive coordinator if I had to choose, just because, I don't know, just my personality tends to be more so, it's less about hurry up and wait and more about go, go, go. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I think I'm a sociopath, and that I have the correct tendencies for like what a really good offensive coordinator is like. I'm gonna peel the wings off of this team just to see how it suffers and squirms, and it doesn't mean anything to me. And that means that if they can't block the counter, if they can't stop us on the counter, I'm gonna call counter 38 times, because that's the kind of man I am. I think I have a little bit of that in me. Yeah, I think I'm ready to be like, hey, you can't slap flood to the wide zone. Well, I'm going to run it 35 times. Get ready.
That's for you. All right. And that's our show. Do you want to take us out?
Yeah, I do. Man, our video froze again. At least we're smiling. Well, you're kind of smirking.
There it is. It's back. It's weird. I don't know why it's doing that.
It's so bad. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing it either.
No,
all right, so
it's a hobby we do.
This is
a hobby.
This is a professional football podcast. It's not a podcast about professional football. It is a professional podcast about football.
There it is.
Not really. No part of that modifier is true. It is not professional. It's not about football. It's barely a podcast. So this has been Chapel Bell Curve. This is the part where we ask you for money. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, or pretty much everywhere you can subscribe to a podcast, including Spotify. You can get in touch with us on Facebook by searching Chapel Bell Curve, by email at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com, and on Twitter and Instagram at Chapel Bell Curve. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere else that we can amass imaginary internet clout. If you love today's episode, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the podcast, join our growing community on Discord. It is weirder than you think it is.
Yep.
We will catch you in the Classic City this weekend, bright and early. Get there early, stay there the whole time, make traffic awful for everyone. But until then,
Go
go
dogs.
dogs. Fuck you.